Another Founder Wisdom Pod with Michael Yagudaev, aka Mike. Been talking to Mike in the last couple well, I've talked to date an hour ago with Mike for probably 30 minutes. So got to know one another, and he shared a bunch of value bombs. I really wanted to have him on. He really has the model. He is co-founder at CreativeFlow.ai. He founded Conceptual. He also founded Emogination. It's cool, Mike, because when I look at your profile, it's you tried these experiments, you shut them off, you tried another, shut them off. So I see we shared like a similar OS here. But before we talk about that, can you introduce yourself? Tell us a bit more about Creative Flow there.
Yeah, so good job on the pronouncing my name. It's Michael Yagudaev, and I'm a co-founder of CreativeFlow.ai with my friend and co-founder Sohel. Now we've been working on it since about November, December. So it's been good 8 months, and launched it in January, and it kind of blew up there. And I'll tell you the full story about that. And now we're at the stage where we hit 5.5K MRR. So that's really interesting. But we have this much bigger vision of trying to help designers make it really easy to create animations and videos. And that's kind of what we solve for them with a small plugin to export GIFs and videos. And now we want to actually fulfill the much bigger vision, which is to actually help them use some AI in there and build an independent product. And so that's what we're raising money for right now. So it's kind of started shifting our mindset from the indie hacking mindset that we're both indie hackers before. We're both developers. I'm a developer by trade. Ran an agency as well. I've been at startups for the last 10 years, tried different startups, stupidly started with the hardest startup you can, which was a marketplace. I highly discourage anybody to start with that because it's really, really hard. You really need to know what you're doing to be successful in a marketplace. It's super lucrative once you do, but it's not a good starting point. It's like trying to do a double backflip on an extra large jump on your first day of snowboarding. Like it's just, you're gonna die.
But okay, various points here. Isn't that the best way to start if you love adrenaline and you're a bit crazy? Because my first startup was Nootropic. It was approved by Health Canada, and we even developed studies to prove its efficiency. So we started really at like level 100, product business. Nootropic wasn't fully catching up back in these days. And as a result, I got like a triple PhD in entrepreneurship. Isn't that the way to start if you're the extreme type of person?
You can jump in there, but doing a little bit more research is smart. You don't want to get injured on your first day, and that's kind of what it amounts to being. So it's better to start with a smaller jump. When I was learning snowboarding, my friends also pushed me to go to the steeper terrain. But with snowboarding specifically, it actually works better, the steeper terrain. And you just need to know how to fall and not be afraid of falling. So I think the same lesson kind of applies to business. Also, you learn with snowboarding is at first when you start, you think that to go really fast, you have to move a lot. And it's the complete opposite. It's about moving as little as possible and conserving energy over time. And that's true actually for any sport, pretty much. Cycling is the same thing. Surfing is the same thing. Running is the same thing. It's about being efficient with resources. So I don't think it's the most efficient way to go. That's kind of what it amounts to being.
Right, transferring energy. And running, I realized apart from techniques, so yesterday I completed the 26K as part of my training for my Spartan Ultra, which is 50 kilometers, 60 obstacles in the fucking mountains. You're like this engine, right? And you need to feed the engine with fuel. Yesterday I bunked at like kilometer 21, which is interesting. Combination, maybe I did like too much exercise prior to it and a bunch of other things, but it's kind of scary when you think that you're constantly consuming these calories. You absolutely need to inject stuff in your body so I can gain more. And then there's muscle fatigues and all that. The equivalent of injury in the startup world, I think that would be a light form of it would be burnout. Well, let's start with like depression. Depression is like not wanting to show up to work because everything is hard. You've constantly got these negative beliefs in your head. I'm not good. I'm not making money. I'm there making 5K a month while my banking friends are making 500K a month,
Yeah.
So then you start sensing the burnout. Burnout is like a hard pivot, and you might injure yourself. And the true injury, in my opinion, would be someone that would somewhat be traumatized by the entrepreneurial experience, so much so that they never want to come back to the game. What do you think?
Yeah, so it's both mental and financial. I think the financial one happens first, and you notice it first, and then the burnout can be really severe as well. It can take like years to recover from it, depending how long you've been going at it. It kind of happened to me. It was more for me. It was more the financial aspect of it,
Yeah.
And it was light burnout the first couple of startups in there. But it wasn't as severe of a burnout. It was more financial burnout, and kind of burning, like owing 10 grand to the bank and trying to negotiate with the government because you owed them tax too. Because I didn't know I needed to pay tax when I started I didn't know how much tax I needed to save when I started doing freelancing. That was the first lesson, and then I later learned that I should have just had an accountant, and he would have saved me. He would have just saved me like thousands of dollars. So I should just have an accountant.
In my case, the first startup, it was 40 grand. And even 40 grand is not that much. I often hear stories of like 100, 300 grand.
You had the debt of 40 grand?
Yeah, if not more. That's without calculating the time that I invested. Like this startup, I was running probably 30% of my time for at least 4 or 5 years were invested in that one. I was running my agencies alongside, so that was good. But again, it's not the right way to see things. It's like I got the triple PhD off that. How I see pretty much everything, and the benefits of staying in the entrepreneurial game, because most of folks would look at us like we're crazies, and guess what? We are fucking crazy. You can't be a sane person and be in entrepreneurship because it's so lonely. You're like solo, and you're literally looking at your bank account at sometimes wondering like, why am I into this game? Like me as a VP sales, or I could probably run literally companies for private equity. I'd make probably 500K to $1 million per year. And I could have started doing that years ago. But why I stay is the compounding effect, the eighth wonder of the world. And I truly believe in compounding, not only from the skills that I gain, but that, like every minute that I spend more, for example, talking with you, this video is perennial, right? It will stay on the web forever. The more I stay in the game, the more I develop my network, the more I don't represent a company, right? Because when you represent a company, you represent the company. You're not you represent the company. I mean, some trends are changing, but it's aggregating that, it's growing my network, it's gaining the skills. And when you pack that up all together, this means millions, if not billions, that are 100% insured if I stay in the game for at least 30 years, and I'm still quite young, and 30 years is very realistic to me. So I guess it's kind of a decision of, do you want to be wealthy right now, or can you wait for a while? And I'm not even talking about investing in stocks here, or I'm just talking about pure startup building. What do you think about that?
Yeah, so probability-wise, you're much better off just going the corporate path if you have like strong skills. Like if you're really good at sales, exactly what you said, like 500K, like for me, an engineer, and I can also go into sales if I wanted to. I can make like an L8 engineer at Microsoft makes like $700,000 a year or something ridiculous like that.
Easy.
So I can go to a company that size and do very little and earn a lot of money in there, but that's not what I'm after. I'm after the impact itself, the product. I'm not going to say the financial aspect doesn't interest me. For sure, it does. I don't want to think about that money at some point as well. But it's more about if Like if Microsoft comes to me tomorrow and says, hey, like we're going to give you a budget of $1 billion and you can do whatever you want and build this amazing tool for designers to be able to create animations and video the way you see it fit. I'll say, like, when do we start? Like, where do I sign? Where's the dotted line? Right. And
But
that's what happened.
there are like downsides to that as well, right? Like a lot of founders, they kind of, oh yeah, I'm just gonna sign here, have a nice exit, but next thing they know, they're stuck in this company, and you start accumulating a heart debt, which is like, what the fuck am I doing here? I have a boss in the end. It's kind of Palmer Luckey with Zuckerberg style. And that is time wasted also, and time is money for, like, especially if you're aiming for billions. I say, like, why not go with an acquisition, but just a very lucrative partnership that would not restrain me, not restrain my hands, and allow me to also sign with other companies. What do you think about that?
I think about it less, like, it's less black and white to me. I gave the Microsoft example for a very specific reason, because the Xbox, there's a really good documentary about how they started the Xbox. So some couple of developers in the graphics group working on DirectX, which is the graphics engine for Windows and for games, and they wanted to create a console. And they just dreamed of creating a console, built some alliances, put it up in front of, eventually ended up in front of Bill Gates demoing that thing. And then Microsoft committed $1 billion and then $2 billion within the next couple of years to actually build the console and launch it. It's just a very capital intensive business. I don't even know how you could do that with private venture these days, right? How would you do that? How would you accomplish that goal? If that was your goal, how would you accomplish that goal? So to me, it's more about, like, what is your goal? What are you trying to actually create in the world? And what is the best avenue of creating it? So for me, I just haven't found a better avenue at the moment to create a product like that. I just need absolute freedom. And in the beginning, especially, having a bigger company in charge of you just kind of constricts you, and it's not great unless you have a really good relationship with the CEO and they trust you. And it takes years to develop these kind of relationships. So it is possible. It's just less likely. And sometimes, so I still think you should explore it and think about it. And what is the difference between, so if I'm a director at a company and I have, like, underneath me, I have 10 people reporting to me, or I'm a manager actually at that point. But if I'm a manager and there's nobody, I'm directly reporting to the CEO, say, for example, what's the difference between that and being an entrepreneur and having a team of 10 people? If I get absolute freedom, the only difference is that my budget gets allocated by somebody else. So, but I still have somebody to answer to. Even if I'm the CEO, I have the board to answer to, I have investors to answer to, I have customers to answer to. I still have people to answer to. It's not like the accountability goes away. I think so.
Yeah, I think it'd be like creating this tech empire at, like, Amazon level. And if I would relate that to human, would be, Musk or Bezos. But even if you check Bezos, like, he kind of moved away from that, so he kind of maxed out this life, which I think I will also, maybe. And the why is that, like, who's accountable to me in that case? It's CEOs, right? I don't want to deal with clients because they might not be CEOs. So we might clash on that level. I want to deal with people that have similar mindset. I also want to deal with people that have stakes in the game, that have parts of my companies, are partners, co-founders. And that's what I want to do with my life. Create systems, create great products as well. Probably take a product role in my company. And just product is cool because you have direct impact on people. And if you build good shit, you're adding, like, value to people's life, So I cannot see anything more fulfilling than that.
Yeah, I hear you. And I worked a lot of years as a freelancer and consultant. I own an agency, and I got used to talking to the CEO. I'm not used to talking up the chain. I just say things like they are. and I'm used to just being heard and just having usually all the other stakeholders like, oh my God, we've been trying to say that forever to the CEO, but you finally said it. We love you because you said what we were thinking. But it's not like they didn't know what I'm thinking. I just have that voice of like, hey, like this is the way we should do it. And it makes sense. It's common sense. And they already knew that, but the CEO wouldn't listen to them because they're like the subordinates. Right? There's so
CEOs
many
love that, you know,
like that.
people think, you know, they will get fired, but it's the other way around. Like, I'm not sure about you, but me, I just love when employees come up to me and tell me what they think. Obviously, there's limits to that because most of folks, usually they're not as right in their decisions as I am. I fancy myself as a good decision maker, but at least it shows that they're brave. And it shows that they want to contribute to the whole discussion. And most importantly, that they can think for themselves, you know. And in orgs, like one clear phenomenon that we've been seeing forever is that no one thinks for themselves. Groupthink happens. Everyone says, yes, good idea, good job. But next thing you know, that decision is not true. And basically, once you start taking bad decisions at scale, you can have a company fail and crash. I believe that happened at various company that fell apart, Enron, all the big scams, you know, like FTX, it was that, you know, everyone was saying yes to Sam. I'm not saying that, by the way, I think there's a lot of evidence that points towards that. Yeah, it was indeed some part was a scam, but it's just dangerous when everyone agreed to these charismatic CEOs and fall in line. And yeah, it's, you know, let's all jump over the hill kind of decision.
Yeah, I think you have different people. You need to have the rock stars and the rocks, like they said in the Radical Candor book. So the rocks are the people that will always be behind you and like just like steady people. You need those people. You really need those people. They're always going to be there. They're incrementally.
Well, that's my wife and my family.
Exactly, and that's my girlfriend and partner now as well. She's like super steady, going up steadily, and you need that in your life. And then you have the rock stars that can just like, they can do this, but they can also do this all of a sudden. So it's hard to you need to balance them a little bit with the rocks and rock stars. So it's kind of, you need both. I don't think that's absolutes in there, but yeah, so I think what I learned through my journey is what nobody's talking about is pick the right starting point. That's the short and sweet of it. Everybody's talking about do marketing, push. But if you pick the wrong starting point, no matter how much marketing you do, you're not going to take off. You're wasting your time pretty much. So just do a little bit of research in the beginning and see what people are actually asking for, instead of have the humility to ask them what they want instead of telling them what you think they need. And a lot of times you will realize what, like I'll give fitness as an example because I think everybody kind of understands that. Say they need to eat more greens and broccoli, and you start a brand it's like broccoli all the way out, and you give them like none of what they want. What they want is like a quick win to show that they lost weight. If you don't give them that, they're never going to start. You need to give them something. If you give them like, oh, here's a delicious broccoli treat that's gonna, it tastes amazing too, you're much more likely to be successful because they want to feel good about themselves. That's what they're asking for. But for them to be successful in the long run, you kind of need to chip away at the problem in a sense. But where it comes for digital products, which is what we're both working on more, it's about going to finding who you care about. So for me, it's designers. I really love designers. I worked as a designer as well on different projects, and I had them at my agency. So I really love them, love hanging out with them and seeing what they complain about. So they're all using Figma. In our case, we go to the Figma forums, look around and see what they complain about. And they complain about, hey, like we want to be able to export animations out of Figma as GIF and video. And nobody is doing that. And we looked around, we weren't even sure if it was possible, honestly, to do it with the tools that Figma gives us. But we saw the demand for it, and we said, let's try it for 3 days, right? It's a 3-day bet. Sit down, get a WeWork. Me and my co-founder sit down, try the co-founder relationship with him at that time. And then it worked, and we were just shocked that it worked. So we posted it on social media, and it just like blew up on social media, and people were chasing us down for the links, which has never happened to me in 10 years of startups. Nobody has ever asked me for a link. Nobody chased me down. So that was like really interesting. So we gave them the link. We gave them the link for free on Gumroad until Figma has to approve the plugins. And we're just waiting for the approval. It was taking them longer. So it took them like 10 days instead of 5 days. So we're just kind of waiting. We gave them a Gumroad link. And then we also, our next experiment is, are they willing to pay for it? So we're like, okay, let's do pay what you want. Just like pay what you want on Gumroad, boom. And so people started paying like $1, $10, $15. And we're like, whoa, okay, this is like alpha version release and people are paying for it. I wonder, let's sit down, actually release it to the store, put payments on, I remember December 31st at 10 p.m. That's when the payments went live, and I went to have my drink with my friends and start the year. And then 2 days later, we had our first like paying, January 2nd, we had our first like paying customers, and then it just kind of kept growing from there, and just was a bit overwhelming. We had to work long hours. I have a season pass for the ski resort here, Whistler, which is a world-class ski resort. I went exactly 0 times this year because we were so busy. I was so tired from my extreme sport is now running the company. So I love extreme sports, but I can't do them anymore because I'm just so exhausted from the company itself that I just don't feel like I need it at that point. At some point, I'll probably do it again. Yeah, so just the lesson, I guess, there is just to do research. And the technique we use is called Sales Safari. So Sales Safari is by Amy Hoy, and I forgot the other person involved in it, but it's really, really simple. You go to forums, you go to places where the community hangs out. So if you're trying to sell to I don't know, to fitness enthusiasts, you go and in bodybuilding, you go to bodybuilding forums and you start looking at what they're complaining about. Like maybe they're complaining about, hey, I can't log in my sets, is like throwing off my rhythm, and then 100 people like comment on it. And you're like, well, okay, that's kind of interesting. What if can I build something for them to help it? Do I have the skill set to do it? Right. So you have to ask yourself that. So it's about knowing yourself at the same time. Can I create like a small experiment around that, show what's going on, and then see how they react? So it's a hypothesis-based system, and then just have the humility to understand that you might be wrong as well. And you don't have to be creative. Like that's the other mistake I think most people make. They think they need to have a creative name for like what they create. Like what people are asking for is export GIF or video. Our plugin is called export GIF or video. Like we didn't need to call it some ridiculous name like some of our competitors did. Like every time they search for export GIF, they find us, right? So it's really clear what we do to them, and the value proposition is really clear, and that's how we've been able to acquire so many users. We have 58,000 downloads right now in the last 7 months, and got to 5.5K MRR in 7 months because we just did what they asked for, and then we just convert free to pro. We have the pro subscriptions as well in there. So yeah, that was kind of our journey, and then the next level was talking to them and just hearing, like, hey, what's the problem underneath? Like, why do you need to export GIFs and videos out of Figma? Like, why are you using Figma? And we kept hearing, it was more organic. We kept hearing like, oh, thanks to your plugin, we don't need to use Adobe After Effects anymore. We can use Figma and export all of our stuff, and it saves us so much time. It's like a no-brainer. And I was like, wow, that's kind of interesting. Okay, you hear it once, you hear it twice, you hear it 3 times, 4 times. And then you start like, whoa, but but why is it a big deal? And so, yeah, you keep asking the why question, and you realize that what they're actually saying is that it's really hard and costly to use After Effects for them to create animations, but they want to create it. They want to have more engaging content. They want to have more engaging landing pages. They want to have engaging social media content. It really works. Video and animated content really grab attention like nothing else out there. So they want it, but you just can't afford the cost of it. So then what if we made that cost ridiculously easy? Like, what if we use some of the advancement we have in machine learning and AI to help them with that? So that's what we're working on right now. And that's why we're raising rounds, because we have new ideas around that we see are really revolutionary compared to everybody else in the industry.
Really bullish on the idea. Yeah, that time passed really quick because we're already on time. But if I could summarize it, it's like a niche and a niche and a niche. So it's like there's the Figma hypertrend. Second, you went on the blogs and find out about this problem right there. So you executed on it, and low price point. So it's like a bunch of people actually decided to sign up. And yeah, I'm really bullish on the ideas. I know a good trend and a niche when I find one. Mike, where can people find out more about you and the startup?
Yeah, so you can find me at Yagudaev on Twitter, and I think on most social media at Yagudaev, and CreativeFlow.ai is our website, so you can find out the link to our plugin and future